My name is Maurice Carney. I am one of the co-founders of Friends of the Congo, and I currently serve as the organization's executive director. And it's just a tremendous pleasure to have uh, our sister, our elder, uh, revolutionary scholar, activist, Aningina Bibiane Tshefu on with us. Uh, and it's it's a it's a it's a pleasure to have you. And we have our brother Passy with her. We have two generations of Congolese on. And Passy, we just want to thank you so much for making this happen. We need the elderly wisdom with the youthful technological savvy. So thank you, Brother Passy, for assuring that we could have Mama Bibiane on with us finally to have this long overdue discussion about her graphic novel, about her life, her father's uh, association and role with Patrice Lumumba and the Congolese national movement. So we're really looking forward to this discussion today and this exchange. So we have Mama Bibiane on with us here live from Kinshasa. And whenever we do these Zoom sessions and have folks in from Kinshasa, we always keep our fingers crossed that the electricity won't go out and the internet will hold up. Or Mama Vivian, the last time we tried to connect, there was just this tremendous thunderstorm, right?
Yes,
And we
yes,
know
yes.
when you have those downpours, it's just forget it. It's not going to happen. So we're gonna get started uh, as we have our folks on with us, people who have joined us, and to hear this discussion. Mama Bibiane, s'il vous plaît, just share with us a little bit about who you are and what you've been doing and your personal relationship with the Lumumba family, your father's relationship with Patrice Lumumba himself, and even a little bit about your experience with Lumumba, because I think you said you were about 12 years old uh, when
10,
you
10.
10, you
I
were 10 years old.
remember now 10
Yes,
years old.
yes. So
Yes.
you can tell us a little bit from when you were 10 years old, having met Patrice. So let's start there. And Passy, we can translate for her. I think Mama Bibiane is going to speak to us in French, and we'll work to do the translation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, parle en français. Hein? Oui. Euh, euh, mon père, my father, en fait, il a étudié dans la même école, l'école normale, et à l'école Tchumbe, à Tchumbe. C'est là-bas aussi que papa a étudié. La plupart des élites venant du Sankourou ont étudié, commencé leur école primaire là-bas à Tchumbe. Et, c'est comme ça que quand Patrice est venu à Kinshasa, que mon père était à Kinshasa aussi, il faisait partie de l'association des Batétés là. Ils l'ont reçu, les membres de l'association l'ont reçu.
She's trying to say that her father studied in the same school where Umba studied, and primary school, and
Catholic.
Yeah, Catholic. Yeah, and
Chumbe
is the school. And when Lumumba came here in Kinshasa, it is her father who welcomed Lumumba, as a member of Stella Association. As privilege to be received in Kinshasa. Some came from outside of the capital.
And that's a Tetela Association. That's Lumumba's ethnic group, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oui, oui. Alors, euh, jusqu'après, après l'association, étant membre de l'association, comme il était membre de l'association des Batétéla, quand il a créé le MNC, alors tous les Batétéla aussi ont fait partie du MNC.
Yeah. She's saying that as Lumumba was a member of the Batetela tribe ethnic group, so he was a member of that association. And when he created his movement, his political movement called MNC, the movement of the National Congolese Movement, all the Batetela people also joined the movement, and they considered that it is their movement, political movement.
Ils l'ont promu pour devenir le président de l'association des Batétéla.
And they promoted him to become the president of the Association of Batetela tribe people.
Alors, à ce moment-là, il venait à la maison, chez nous, aux réunions des Batétéla.
And at that time, he was attending the meetings at their dwelling place. So as a president of association, so sometimes they were holding the meetings at their dwelling place, at our father's place.
Yeah. So, and sorry, si je parle en même temps en anglais.
Yeah.
Donc, et même ils allaient chez papa aussi et maman, allaient fréquenter la famille, maman Pauline et sa femme, et nous allions chez eux.
So they were paying visits each other. So Lumumba's family and her father's family, were just paying visits to each other. They were acquaintances as relatives and friends.
So, Mama Bibiane, the meetings of the Tetelas were held at your father's house. So both Lumumba and your father were considered to be évolués of the elite class.
Oui. Oui, exactement.
Okay.
Lui, il était immatriculé. Mon père était immatriculé à Kinshasa et Lumumba a été immatriculé à Stanleyville. Et quand il est venu, d'ailleurs, d'abord quand il était venu pour la formation postale, il est venu de Stanleyville pour faire une formation à la poste.
So, right. So you're saying that your father was matriculé. I'm going to leave it in the French for now. Matriculé in Kinshasa. Right? And Lumumba was matriculé in Stanleyville, which is Kisangani today. Now, Mama Bibiane, two things. Can you explain to us what matriculé means? And also let us know if you recall that process yourself when your father was going through it in Kinshasa.
Oui. Immatriculé, c'est-à-dire on vous donne un numéro d'immatriculation, de matricule, et mérite civique,
Okay.
prouvant que vous avez un niveau proche des Blancs.
Okay, so you were giving a number, like a civic number, and that number signified that how close you were to the whites in the Congo.
Yes, oui.
Okay. And what did you have to do to get that number?
Bon, d'abord au travail, vous devez avoir une appréciation, être apprécié par vos chefs, par les Blancs. Et puis, je vais apprécier par vos chefs, on vient à la maison voir comment la maison est soignée et on visite la maison et on voit comment vos enfants sont traités. Donc, vous êtes comme les Blancs.
Okay, so you had to get a sign out from your boss at work to say that you're in good standing at work. And
yes,
and then the matriculation officer, the colonial officer, will come to your house and make sure your house is clean, make sure your children are clean, and make sure you're following certain procedures that they would check off on a list.
Yes. Et puis, je me rappelle, moi, pour rentrer, puisqu'il y a des écoles de niveau où on était avec les Blancs.
Okay.
Il faut, pour rentrer dans ces écoles-là, il fallait remplir certaines conditions. Et ils venaient visiter chez vous, ils visitaient votre maison, et puis on pouvait vous accepter à cette école. Les meilleures écoles, les meilleures écoles des Blancs. Donc nous avons étudié, nous avons étudié, nous avons sélectionné pour rentrer dans les écoles des Blancs.
So you personally, you recall going to school with white children, and in order for you to be accepted in those schools, you had to fill certain conditions at home in order to get access to those schools. So in essence, the Belgians were creating an elite that they call évolué in their likeness.
Oui. Et puis même il y avait une sorte d'apartheid. Il y a il y a des quartiers où les Blancs habitaient et des quartiers où les Noirs.
So there's a segregation because only blacks were allowed to live in certain neighborhoods and whites were living in certain neighborhoods. So even though you were evolved according to the Belgians, right? You still didn't have access to everything that the whites had access to.
No.
And do you recall that as a child, how that was? That you recall?
Bien sûr. Oui, certainement. Nous avons été dans les écoles. Nous, là où nous habitions, nous devions prendre des bus pour aller au quartier des Blancs, là où il y avait pour aller à ces écoles-là.
Okay, so there was a sort of busing that was taking place. In order for you to go from your neighborhood where the blacks lived, you had to take the bus to go to the white neighborhood to go to school.
Oui.
Okay, so that's similar to the United States in a segregated society. I don't think a lot of people would think that in the Congo, in the heart of Africa, that where the majority of the people were black, it was segregated to the point where there had to be busing for the children. So in order for you to, you've already passed the test, your family passed the test. They said that the Belgians said you're evolved, you're civilized Congolese. But even though you're civilized, you're still not at the level of the whites. You can't live in their neighborhoods. It's segregated. If you want the best education, you have to take the bus in order to get to the white schools in the Congo, in the heart of Africa.
C'est toute cette situation-là qui révoltait Lumumba. Toute cette discrimination-là. Ça fait partie.
This kind of discrimination revolted Lumumba, the segregation and the discrimination. Now, was that something that he arrived at later in his development, or was that early on that he started to sense this distinction between blacks and whites?
Non, même la violence, il l'a vécu quand il était jeune, quand il était enfant. Il voyait comment la violence contre les indigènes au village, quand il était encore à l'école primaire, cette discrimination, même les religieux, les prêtres à l'école. Il y avait toujours la discrimination entre les prêtres, qui étaient blancs, et les indigènes.
Okay,
Et
so
il y avait la police.
Mhm.
Il a vécu personnellement cette situation de violence et depuis l'enfance.
Okay,
C'est
so
ça qui
since
l'a poussé, c'est ça qui l'a poussé, il a décidé à agir.
right, I see. Patsy, I think you have to turn the camera is turned to the side there. Thank you. So you're saying, Mama Bibiane, since he was a child, Lumumba has experienced the discrimination against Congolese, and there really
Et
wasn't
la
much
violence.
distinction, and the violence,
Mhm.
the discrimination and the violence, and that came from the priests and the police.
Et les polices ou même l'administration coloniale.
The
Et,
colonial administrators.
Administration.
oui. Alors,
Right.
ils utilisaient parce qu'ils ils forçaient. C'est un peu le travail forcé. Ils devaient fournir des produits aux administrateurs. Par exemple, le coton. Le coton, il fallait qu'ils délivrent un certain nombre de kilos de coton, comme le caoutchouc. Il a vécu ça. Il a vu
Okay.
ses parents être obligés de mettre, de donner des kilos. Ils exigeaient un certain nombre de kilos auprès des villageois.
So he
Et
experienced and lived as a child, basically, for all intents and purposes, a slave labor system, where
oui,
Lumumba's parents
exactement.
had to deliver cotton, much in the same way that his ancestors had to deliver rubber under King Leopold. So under King
Oui.
Leopold, they were delivering rubber forcibly,
Mm-hmm.
and under Belgian colonialism, colonial administrators, they had to deliver cotton. At least we're in Lumumba's village where he was, certain kilos of cotton.
Même à l'époque à la guerre, pendant la guerre, la deuxième guerre mondiale, où il
Mm-hmm.
devait absolument, comment, délivrer livres, comment en anglais on en dit? Oui, il devait fournir à un moment donné, fournir les caoutchoucs, les caoutchoucs.
The rubber.
Oui, oui, à un moment
Okay.
donné, oui.
So
Et c'est comme
during
ça
World
que
War.
la plupart des jeunes ont fui les villages pour aller du côté de l'Est. Là-bas, à Kindu, au Maniema, les jeunes du Sankuru quittaient parce qu'on les maltraitait, ils faisaient faire du travail forcé. Parce qu'il fallait
Okay.
absolument.
So you're saying that during World War II, the pressure to produce rubber, for example, was heightened during
Oui,
that period,
oui,
and the
oui.
young people who are in Sankuru, for example, or in the village, yeah, they fled to the east of the country. They left
Oui,
the village. Yeah, so Sankuru is in the center of the Congo, right? In the Kasai region.
oui. Et c'est la région des Batete là,
Okay.
des Tétés là,
Okay.
d'où moi je viens et d'où Lumumba vient aussi.
Right. So you are Batetela. Lumumba is Batetela. You're part of the Batetela people.
Oui.
Okay. Got it. Understood. Excellent. Let's see. I don't know if our administrators, if you can enable the chat and enable the question and answer. It appears that they've been disabled. So if you can help us by enabling the question and answer and the chat for us. I don't know if you'll be able to do that, Marcian. Marcian, if you could enable the chat for us, please, or enable the question and answer. Marcian, that's it. Okay, thank you, Marcian. Okay, super. So, Mama Bibiane, so we're setting the we've set the background, right? Talking about Lumumba's social status, Lumumba's experience as a child, Lumumba's going through the process of becoming an évolué, an evolved person, a civilized Congolese, according to the Belgians, and just as your father did. So, what is it? It seems like from going through your book, because you unlike many other books, you start with Lumumba from his childhood, right? You can show the book Lumumba, le combattant de la liberté, the freedom fighter. What is it that in his upbringing that triggered him to seem to have committed class suicide? That is to say, he at a certain point he rejected it seems to he rejected the status of an évolué and went against the system, challenged the Belgian system, challenged the colonial order. What do you think? Where do you think that came from? What was it about his upbringing that brought him to that level to say I'm going to, because he in your book you lay out how he had privilege. He was working at the best jobs. He was able to even meet the king, right, in Kisangani early on in his young adult stage, and he had access, maybe obviously not the same access as whites, right? But he was able to travel to Belgium if he wanted, and what made him then just say, I'm not going to go deeper into that, into this system. I'm going to reject it.
Parce que il a vécu, comme je l'ai dit avant, il a vécu la souffrance de ses parents, de la famille, et puis depuis le village, depuis sa jeune enfance, il a vécu les souffrances des Congolais. Ils n'étaient pas bien payés, ils étaient maltraités, et il a vu la discrimination et puis il a compris l'hypocrisie des Blancs avec l'église, les deux églises qui vous faisaient croire par la Bible. Il parlait de la charité et tout ça, mais dans la réalité, il n'a pas vu ça. Et puis quand il est allé à Bruxelles, à l'exposition, il y a une exposition universelle en Belgique, à Bruxelles.
Wait, what year was that? Was that 58 as well?
Oui, en 58. Et
okay.
Il a vu...
when he went to that exposition in Brussels, that was where the Belgians had the human zoos, right? They brought Congolese and put them in zoos to showcase them in Brussels.
Oui.
Okay.
Alors, ça l'a révolté. Il n'a pas compris comment les mêmes personnes qui vous font croire qu'ils sont humains et qui vous font lire la Bible et ils vous traitent comme ça, ça l'a révolté. C'est comme ça qu'il a dit.
So he saw the contradictions, as you're saying, that it revolted him that the same people who were teaching you to read the Bible and be Christian could actually treat Congolese in the fashion that they did, right?
Oui.
So he was revolted by that.
Oui, ça l'a révolté et je
Mhm.
crois que à ce moment-là, c'est là il est entré en contact avec les groupes des anticolonialistes, les groupes en Belgique. Il a commencé par entrer, fréquenter les groupes
Mhm.
qui étaient anticolonialistes.
Okay, so
Alors,
when he went to Belgium for the first time, he connected with anti-colonialists who were in Belgium. So they had some kind of influence on him. That's interesting. So of course, presumably these anti-colonialists were white, right? That he connected with in
oui,
Belgium. So
oui.
so can you share us with us a sense how you had the white colonial administrators, you had the white priests who were treating the Congolese horribly, and then you had the white anti-colonialists. How did he
Oui.
balance those distinctions from what you could tell?
Il a, il, il a, il, je, il a, il a fait confiance, il a fait confiance au groupe, au groupe des Belges, ceux qui étaient en Belgique. Il est d'ailleurs entré dans le parti libéral.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Et puis il a été ami avec le ministre des colonies, M. Bush-RS, qui est resté qui est resté ami à lui jusque je crois avant l'indépendance. Hein? C'est lui qui l'a aidé quand il est entré en prison. Quand il est entré en prison la première fois, c'est lui qui l'a aidé à sortir de la prison et à avoir le travail chez Bralima.
Okay, so he had close relations with the Liberal Party in Belgium, right? Had close relations with a particular individual in the colonial administration that
Oui.
Basically saw him as a friend. They were friendly with each other. He looked out for Lumumba to the
Oui.
extent that he could. Okay,
Oui.
understood. And now you mentioned his first time in prison. How many times was Lumumba arrested?
3 fois. 3 times.
He was arrested three. And what was he arrested for those 3 times?
La première fois, c'était on dit qu'il avait détourné l'argent de la poste alors que lui justifiait il récupérait l'argent qu'eux ils ne payaient pas, comme on ne le payait pas assez pour faire vivre sa famille et il a commencé à se servir. Alors,
Okay,
c'est
so
ça
this was
ces arguments-là.
let's do that. Let's do that. The first time he was arrested was because he had taken money from the postal office, and his rationale was, y'all cut my check. My family can't survive, so I'm going to take some money for myself. That was the first time, right?
Oui. Alors, la deuxième fois, c'était ça c'était à Stanleyville.
Okay, the first time was in Stanleyville, which is today's Kisangani.
Oui. La deuxième fois, c'est la deuxième fois, c'était comment on appelle? À Taizville, quand on l'a arrêté.
Taizville, okay.
Oui, quand on l'a arrêté, quand il voulait aller quitter Kinshasa pour rejoindre son groupe à Kisangani, qu'on l'a arrêté. Ça, c'est la deuxième fois.
Okay, so the second time, this was before the round table. The second time they arrested them was before the round table. Because at the round table...
Oui. La deuxième fois, c'était avant la table. Oui, avant la table ronde.
Okay.
Avant la table ronde.
Right. So the round table took place in 1960, right?
Oui, février, janvier, février, entre janvier et février 60,
60. Okay.
1960.
Well, so why was
Mm.
he arrested the second time? Was it, I think it was activism, resisting the colonial
Oui, il avait
administration?
fait une conférence à Stanleyville et
Hmm.
on l'a arrêté pour, soi-disant, comment il dit, euh, oui, pour, pour des raisons politiques, il contestait
Okay.
l'autorité des
Okay. So
Belges.
he was arrested a second time in Kisangani to as a result of his resisting the colonial administration. Right. That's the second time that he was arrested, and then he was uh,
La,
uh,
la troisième fois,
and the third time he was arrested
et la
was
troisième fois qu'on l'a arrêté, c'est quand on l'a arrêté pour l'amener quand il a voulu quitter, il a voulu quitter le Kinshasa pour aller à Stanleyville, rejoindre les membres de son gouvernement, quoi, qui étaient
right.
installés à Kisangani, à
Well,
Stanleyville.
that's interesting. You could actually say he was probably arrested 4 times because he was put under house arrest, right?
Ah
For when he
oui,
was trying to get
oui,
to
avant
Stanleyville.
même.
Yeah, and then they
Oui, même
captured
en
him.
résidence, en résidence
Résidence
surveillée,
surveillée. Yes, yes.
chez lui
So
à la
they.
maison, avant
Mhm.
qu'il ne parte à
Uh,
Kisangani, quand on l'a
Kisangani.
arrêté en route. Mm.
Okay,
C'est cela,
right.
oui.
So, Mama Bibiane, you've written this book, this graphic novel, and you wrote a graphic novel on purpose, because you felt that you needed to reach a younger generation, right? That's you wanted to reach them. What is it about Lumumba that you feel the younger generation should know? You just earlier today, you were speaking to some of the street children in Kinshasa. What were some of the things that you're sharing with them about Lumumba? Why would Lumumba be? He's been assassinated, gone for over 60 years. What is it about him that young Congolese today, like Passy, those street children you were speaking to, why should they want to know about Lumumba, and what is it that they can gain from getting from knowing about Lumumba?
Mais Lumumba est mort pour libérer les Congolais.
Okay.
Alors, maintenant, ça c'est ma première réflexion.
Okay,
Les
so
jeunes,
he died for the Congolese people. He made the ultimate
oui, pour
sacrifice for the Congo.
sa vie, oui. Et puis, je crois, ceux qui l'ont tué, ont tout fait depuis sa mort pour l'enlever de l'espace public. De l'espace public. Donc, et les jeunes, plusieurs générations ne connaissent pas Lumumba, alors que dans tous les coins du monde, on a vu sa lutte, on a vu ce sacrifice, et les Congolais ils vivent comme si ils n'avaient jamais existé. Alors, que ce soit les adultes, oui.
No, continue.
Oui. Alors, que ce soit les adultes utilisent Lumumba comme un tremplin pour arriver, pour être entrés dans la politique. Mais ils ne font pas. Oui, pour entrer dans la politique, il y a tous les ministres, tous les leaders politiques, ils utilisent Lumumba comme référence pour se faire voter. Alors qu'en réalité, dans leur comportement, ils ne suivent pas l'idéologie ni la vision de Lumumba.
Okay, so you said several things there, Mama Bibiane, that information, knowledge about Lumumba has been hidden within the
Oui,
Congo itself. Even though people
oui,
around the world know about Lumumba, folks in the Congo
oui.
really haven't been introduced or been exposed to who Lumumba really is and what he stood for, right? And then
Yeah.
you said that those politicians who are, and this goes for both children and adults, that they haven't been exposed. And Juliana Lumumba, Lumumba's only daughter, in her preface, she makes that of your book. She wrote the preface to your book. She made that statement. She said that people in the Congo do not know about Lumumba, which some
Mhm.
people may find surprising. That it's his country. He's the son of the Congo, but the people do not know about. That's thanks, Patsy, for showing the preface there for Juliana Lumumba. So, but you say the politicians, the elite, what they do is knowing that Lumumba is recognized as a hero, they use Lumumba to get into office, but they do not hold to the tenets or the practices or the principles of Lumumba once they do get in office. So they take advantage of his name to advance their political career, but they do not fulfill on the model that Lumumba left. Now, in your novel, you talk Lumumba talks about this, where he said you shared where he said that when the Belgians left Congo and you had the Congolese elite start to fill the posts within the government and society, they were drawn to the material benefits. They were drawn to the luxury. They were
Oui,
drawn to the women. That all those material trappings, and it seems like that's what's happening now. That what Lumumba railed against in regard to his own countrymen, right in 1960, we see that playing out now with today's politicians in the Congo.
exactement, exactement, Maurice. La situation actuelle est identique à ce que c'est même pire, c'est même pire. Il n'y a plus de moralité. Il y a, c'est extraordinaire. Moi, même là maintenant que je suis venu ici pendant les élections là, la propagande électorale, tu vois que les gens sont, c'est incroyable. Ils sont loin de la moralité, de la justice, de justice sociale, l'égalité pour laquelle Lumumba s'est battu. C'est comme si l'élite maintenant a remplacé les Belges.
So that's important what you're saying. You're saying in a way, yeah, you're saying that when Lumumba railed against the transgressions of the Congolese who had recently taken over from the Belgians and their gravitation towards the materialism and the luxury and all, you're saying today it's worse in Kinshasa among the political elite in Kinshasa, even to the point where you're saying that it's in a lot of respects, it's like the Belgians were still there in terms of the exploitation of the Congolese people. So you're saying in this environment where there is and you even mentioned the examples you said during the elections, the propaganda, it just boggles the mind, the crassness of it, the lack of morality, the lack of social justice, the lack of any principles that Lumumba stood for, even though they're using Lumumba's name, you're saying it's so rampant and widespread that a book like yours, or even more works, that introduces Lumumba to this younger generation, so that they can compare what he stood for and who he was against what the politicians are claiming today to represent in his name. And that's
Yeah.
the essence of what you're sharing. So that's a major
Oui,
rationale for your book today, especially getting to the young people in the Congo.
absolument. Absolument. Il faut, comme j'ai tout à l'heure dans mon intervention, quand l'activité, le forum populaire que nous avons eu aujourd'hui, j'ai parlé de ça aux jeunes. J'ai dit que les jeunes doivent prendre leurs responsabilités et pas attendre que les politiciens et même les pasteurs, puisque les politiciens maintenant sont entourés des pasteurs qui endorment les jeunes et les jeunes ne savent pas quoi faire.
So you're saying the message you're giving to the young today, the youth, like what you did today in your presentation to the street children there in Kinshasa, is that they have to seize control of their destiny, that they have to reject the politicians, they have to reject the priests, the preachers, because this is something that's interesting that you're saying. The politicians work in concert with the priests in order to put the people asleep. Is that what you're saying?
Pasteurs. Yes, les pasteurs.
So the church, the pastors, putting the population to sleep through the religion works to the benefit of the politicians, because then the people won't be focused on what the politicians are doing to exploit them.
Absolument, absolument. Et puis, ce que les Lumumba disait, c'est que les Congolais doivent se sentir chez eux et profiter de bien de leur sol comme les richesses du pays. Mais ici, maintenant, vous voyez que ce sont les étrangers sont plus à l'aise. Sont plus à l'aise que les Congolais. Ils sont traités comme des esclaves.
So another element to draw from Lumumba, as in terms of the relevance of your book at this time, is that Lumumba talked about the sons and the daughters of the Congo being the primary beneficiaries and custodians of Congo's wealth. But right now, it's the foreigners who are the primary beneficiaries of Congo's wealth. It's not the local,
les multinationals,
the multinationals. And I suppose you put in that mix the Congolese politicians and elites.
Oui, ils sont ensemble. Ils sont ensemble.
So what you're saying is that there is a system of exploitation that's in place working against the Congolese people. You have the politicians in cahoots with foreigners and the multinationals that are exploiting Congo's resources. And at the same time, you have the politicians in cahoots with the pastors and the church who are putting the people to sleep so that they won't resist or revolt against their condition.
Absolument. C'est en fait ça la situation. Parce que vous ne pouvez pas imaginer qu'il n'y a pas d'eau, il n'y a pas d'électricité, et la situation, c'est pire que même après l'indépendance. Les conditions sociales sont difficiles.
So the social conditions are such that there's no electricity, there's no water, and you even making the argument that it's worse than when Congo gained its independence for the population at large. That's what you're saying.
L'élite. Oui, les élites ont remplacé les colons.
So I think that's clear. Even people who don't speak French heard what you said. So you're saying that the elite, the Congolese elite, have replaced the colonial
Yeah.
administrators. I think that's what Nkrumah would call neocolonialism, where you have
Mais
black
oui, c'est le...
faces who are
Oui.
now doing the same, basically managing the system that continues to exploit the masses of Congolese and Africans.
Alors, je me disais, tu sais, chaque fois, Maurice, je dis, et si, chaque fois que je vois la situation, je me dis, mais si Lumumba était là, qu'est-ce qu'il dirait?
Mm.
Il est mort pour rien?
Mm. So you're saying each time you see the situation, you ask, if Lumumba was here, was alive, what would he say? Did he die for nothing? Now, there's a question in the chat for you, Mama Viviane. They're wondering, when do young people make an attempt to organize against the elite? What let me make sure. When do young people make an attempt to organize themselves to protest the decisions made by the government and the elite? What happens? What happens when they attempt to organize?
Mais ils vont être
What,
opprimés. On va opprimer, on va arrêter, on va les arrêter et, on te tue. Bien que bon, avec, il y a les élections,
mm-hmm.
donc mais les élections et la propagande et tout ça, il n'y a pas de projet de société. Ce n'est pas, et puis, il n'y a pas de projet de société. Comme je dis, on ne parle pas de Lumumba. Pour parler de la vision, sa vision, hein, son idéologie, c'est pourquoi il s'est battu, l'indépendance économique. Toutes les richesses sont aux mains de l'élite.
So, yeah, and they foreigners. So when the youth rise up, they're jailed, even killed. They're suppressed by the security forces, and so there's not much space for them to resist the conditions that they're living in. And you're saying that the elites seem to have the population trapped in a system of extreme and abject poverty, while they benefit from the riches of the country themselves.
Oui, c'est un peu ça.
C'est ça. Right. Okay, Mama Bibiane, we're winding down with our time. We have about 10 minutes or so to go in our discussion. Take us a little bit. You're a family friend, right? You've been close to the Lumumba family, as you said, since you're at least 10 years old, right? And how has the family itself dealt with the loss of Lumumba? You're even sharing with me some stories about Patrice Jr., which many people do not know about. And how have they handled the loss of that family member? We saw Juliana in her fight to get her father's tooth back to the country, and you were part of that process. I think you even traveled to Belgium with them. You came back. You toured the Congo with the family, and with the tooth, you're part of those ceremonies. Share with us what that whole process has been like. The loss of their father, the pursuit of justice, some modicum of justice, and then just to get that body part back. Juliana talked about how no matter how small part of Lumumba they bring back, it was deeply embedded in the Tetela culture, that if the person who made the transition has not been properly buried, then that soul continues to stir, and it's unsettled. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Oui, ce que ce que je constate dans le comportement des mes frères, les enfants de Lumumba, c'est qu'ils ont été traumatisés, fort traumatisés par la disparition de leur père.
So
Ils
they were
n'ont pas eu de
traumatized.
figure. Oui, c'est comme ça que vous voyez, même Juliana a des réactions impulsives. Tu vois?
She has what kind of reactions? What kind of does Juliana have?
Impulsive.
Okay, so she's been they've been traumatized, and you're saying that one example, outward example or manifestation of this trauma, you see Juliana when you interact with her, people don't know her, you know her personally, so you say she's impulsive. She'll respond impulsively. That's so you have to know her to really.
Je la connais.
And Patsy, you've experienced that, Patsy, in dealing
Exactly.
with
Et
Juliana.
puis,
Okay.
il y a même François.
Okay.
François aussi, puis, il boit.
Okay. Well, okay.
Ça, c'est une chose.
Okay.
Ça, c'est bon,
Okay.
c'est tout ce que. Puisqu'on vient, chaque fois, comme moi, je suis très calme et sage, et puis mon père, c'était comme ça. Même leur maman, la maman Pauline, chaque fois, elle venait me parler pour me dire, parle à ta soeur, conseille ta soeur. Donc, vous voyez, et même Patrice, lui, il avait un profil, il était un profil bas, il ne parlait pas beaucoup.
Okay, so you're basically running down some of the outward expressions, manifestations of the different family members, even Lumumba's wife, Pauline, which is Juliana's mother. You were just sharing how they were exhibiting certain personality traits, let's say, or even proclivities that came about as a result of that trauma. Maybe I may have jumped ahead a little bit. Maybe you can share who the children are. You know, who were the children of Lumumba. And if you can name them for us, so people, when you say Patrice, when you say Francois, when you say Bibiane, so people know who you're talking about.
Il a eu 5 enfants.
So Lumumba had 5 children.
Bon, et il y a François François Lumumba, lui, il a eu avec maman Pauline Thier.
Okay.
Il a vécu avec elle, mais il n'était pas marié.
Okay, so this is before Pauline Opango. So he had his first child was not with his wife, Francois. Even though the woman who was the mother of his child, his first child, has the same name as the mother of his other children, who he ultimately married. So there are 2 Paulines.
Yeah. Oui.
Right? So the first Pauline is
Pauline Thier.
Pauline Thier. And Pauline Thier is the mother of Francois, who's the oldest child of Lumumba, right?
Oui.
So now after he had a child, Francois, with Pauline Thier, then he married Pauline.
Mama Pauline Opango.
Then he married Pauline Opango. And then with Pauline Opango, he had how many children?
Il y avait, je crois, 4.
4. Okay.
Il y a Patrice.
Patrice, okay.
Patrice Junior.
Patrice Junior. And he's no longer alive, right? He died a number of years ago.
Yeah. Comment?
Il est mort.
Oui, il est mort. He died il y a quelques années. Et puis,
so Patrice Junior.
Et puis, Juliana.
And then Juliana, okay.
et puis Roland.
And then Roland, right?
Et puis il y avait un enfant qui est mort à bas âge qui s'appelait Christine. Il est mort en 60, oui.
And Christine died in 1960. For those of us who saw the film by Raoul Peck, Lumumba, we saw Christine, that period where Christine died. So he had you had Patrice, you had Juliana, you had Roland, and you had Christine. And those are the children you had with Pauline Opanga, right?
Et puis il y a la dernière femme qui était sa secrétaire, la maman de Guy.
Okay, so then he had another child with the secretary, which is Guy Patrice Lumumba. Okay.
Voilà.
Okay. So but the main point is okay.
Entre-temps, il y a d'autres enfants qui ne sont pas officiels, qui sont là. Okay. Il y en a deux ou trois qui sont là, mais celles qui sont officiellement connues, ce sont celles-là.
Okay, so there are 2 or 3 other children, but but the main point is, Mama Bibiane, is the trauma through that all of them experience. Now, share with us now a bit about the return of Lumumba's remains to the Congo and what that was like, because you went through the whole experience with the family. You had an insider's view of that. What was that like?
En tout cas, c'était émotionnel. Personne ne peut imaginer d'abord qu'il y avait encore quelque chose de Lumumba. Parce que ceux qui l'ont tué avaient décidé de tout détruire. Alors, c'était une surprise, une agréable surprise de l'apprendre d'abord, apprendre ça, et puis après avoir eu la nouvelle, comment est-ce qu'on dit, être dans l'expérience, vivre cette expérience.
Mm-hmm. So it was a welcome surprise to know that there was the remains of Lumumba and then the possibility of actually getting it back to the Congo.
Oui. Donc, ça manquait à tout le pays, ça manquait à la famille que, voilà, quelqu'un, il est mort, il fallait qu'on l'enterre, puisque ça fait partie de notre culture. On ne peut pas... oui, il fallait qu'on rentre, qu'on le remette à ses ancêtres.
Okay, donc, so it was a necessary...
Oui?
No, it's a necessary mission to return his remains to the soil so that he could be with the ancestors. So that was a singular pursuit of Juliana and the rest of the family.
Oui, absolument.
Okay.
Et ça, c'est une mission accomplie et on pouvait pas, on se disait même...
Passy, turn the camera a bit.
Oui, que les troubles qu'il y a au Congo, ça peut être à cause du fait que le Lumumba les corps, les restes de Lumumba n'étaient pas rentrés.
So that's like a how can I say, a story that's told that the trouble that we see in the Congo is linked to the fact that Lumumba was not brought back, his body, his spirit has not been at rest. Thank you for that, Mama Bibiane. We're right up on the time. Just one last question that came in. It says, one last question. It said, is there any emerging leadership that indicate radical change in the Congo? And if so, how closely aligned is their message to Lumumba? Is there any emerging leadership that we can look for in the near future?
Non, ça va venir.
Okay, not right now, but you're saying it's going to happen.
Oui, moi je crois qu'il faut y travailler.
Okay, so you got to put the work in to make that happen. It's not going to come out of thin air.
Non, 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 non. Parce que les gens, les hommes, ceux qui sont les responsables de la disparition de Lumumba font tout pour que qu'on l'oublie.
Okay, so and I
Parce
think
que
that's a
ça
good
va
place to
contre
end.
leurs intérêts.
That's a really good place to end, Mama Bibiane. You said those responsible for the assassination of Lumumba have done everything that so that he could be forgotten. So the very fact that we're having Lumumba Day and we're uttering his name and we're talking about him and people like Passy, musicians and artists like Passy are making music about him and people are painting pictures of him. You're writing books about him. That's a form of resistance against the interests of the colonialists, of those who want to still control the Congo.
Oui, oui, oui. C'est fait
So,
à dessein. Tu les connais.
right. To make a design of it. So thank you, Mama Bibiane, for that, to let us, because that I think that's a great place to end, that we're not dealing with a question of just hero worship from the past, but the very act of our uttering his name, of our writing books, of our making songs is a form of resistance against the colonialists. And it holds up a model for young Congolese, young Africans,
Oui, oui.
as to what a
Oui, oui, oui,
leadership,
oui, oui.
the leadership
Oui,
that is needed for a free Congo and a free Africa.
absolument. Et puis l'exemple des jeunes de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, là.
Yes. Okay. So,
Oui.
like we see young Africans rising up in West Africa as an example.
Voilà. Et il faut aider les jeunes Congolais à se lever et à reprendre leur vie en main et suivre l'exemple.
And
C'est
it's
ça qui
time
est
for young Congolese need to rise up and do the same thing. Mama Bibiane, thank you so much. Passy, you made this happen, man. Really appreciate you. Appreciate the organizing you're doing, the work you're doing. This couldn't have happened without you. Passy, we're gonna try and transition to Instagram. Try and do an Instagram live for a little bit. So if you can set up, we'll give you a few minutes, and you hit us up and let us know that when you're ready. And we can get on with Mama Bibiane for a few minutes on Instagram Live for that audience. So thank you both very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Kito, Kwajo, our new sister on board from Kenya. Thank you all very much for all the tech support that you provided us today. Marician, really appreciate your help in getting us straight for today. And thank you all for coming and being a part of this. Visit lumumbaday.org. Lumumbaday.org. Get pre-order Mama Bibiane's book and become a part of this Free Congo movement. Lumumbaday.org, freecongo.org. Thank you all.